SpotlightMediaStudios.com. Welcome to Education Unfiltered. Here is Mary Stucko.
Hello, this is Mary Stucko with Education Unfiltered, where we talk everything higher ed. And today we are fortunate to have with us Dr. David Brown, who is the Risk Management and Insurance Program Coordinator for Ferris State University. Ferris State University's Risk Management and Insurance Academic Program is helping to prepare the next generation of RMI professionals. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Thanks, Mary. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So tell me, what's going on at Ferris these days? How are things looking?
Well, certainly these are interesting times, but students have come back. Students are back on campus, and education is happening. And there's been some adjustment, but I think things are going well.
Very good. So, how are your RMI students? I mean, I know with my RMI students, we're talking a lot about COVID and how that means in the world of insurance. And so how do you see that, obviously in the world of insurance, this is a whole nother discussion topic, but what do you see, how your students are in that area thinking about it? Well, how are they handling it?
Well, it certainly has been disruptive, I think, to the education process to some extent, but I think the students have, from what I've seen, have demonstrated some pretty good resilience. It has provided a number of very unique sort of object lessons, teaching opportunities. We've been able to talk about pandemics in general as just, another one of those risks that risk managers have to be aware of and plan for. And, when we get into some of the insurance context, there's been an opportunity to talk about some of these coverage disputes that are going on that we're reading about in the news. Obviously, a lot of small businesses have been hurt by this, and business interruption is a significant, major part of a lot of commercial insurance coverages. And so there's been an opportunity to kind of really dig in and analyze what the coverage forms say about that and why there are these coverage disputes, and and also from a risk management standpoint, explore how this type of event affects supply chains, which has been another big risk management concern. We've had conversations around various solutions going forward. Unfortunately, I think it's just human nature. Risk managers tend to be a little more proactive about things, but in general, we're kind of a reactive species. And so, as you would expect, we're at a point now where we're looking at, okay, this is terrible. What are we going to do to keep this from crushing us in the future? And so there's been a lot of talk about sort of a pandemic risk reinsurance program from the federal government, similar to what happened after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And so there's a lot of talk and debate about that. And so that's provided some pretty fertile ground for students to really explore some issues in a very practical sense.
Yeah, and just so people know, there wasn't technically terrorism coverage when 9/11 happened. So there was some debate on coverages when that happened. So afterwards, insurance company developed terrorism coverage, which you would see a lot of times like football stadiums, baseball stadiums, they'll carry it. But it's offered to all business owners, and they actually have to sign a waiver saying they don't want it if they don't want to have that at this point. But that didn't exist before 9/11. So I think that's going to be something similar that happens now with this pandemic, is it's going to be offered, once they develop something, they're going to be offering it to people, and then they have to sign a waiver if they don't want it.
Probably
that's what I see.
Similar.
Yeah, that's what I kind of see happening.
There's a few different proposals on the table, and it'll be interesting to see how this all settles out. But like the 9/11 situation, it'll probably take a year or two before that's all worked out.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, what is the fairest approach to risk management and insurance education?
Well, we like to use a tagline that we've had since the program was brought back several years ago, and that is, our approach is that we offer a practical education to prepare students for a flexible career and a rewarding life. And those are the things that we kind of latch onto in providing we start with the technical knowledge, so the students have to understand some of the basics of what insurance coverages are and how the coverage forms are structured, the broader risk management concepts of, what's the risk management process, identify, analyze, control, finance, risks. And so we do that through aligning a lot of our curriculum with different industry sort of standard education materials. Gives our students some nice advantages because they can earn parts of their CPCU by completing just simply by being successful in their coursework. But we also try to bring in some of those practical skills that our advisory board and industry partnerships that are important, like critical thinking, problem solving. So we spend some time on projects and exercises that help to develop some of those broader, sometimes called softer skills, and give the students a real chance to get that practical education. A quick example, in the capstone course, our risk management insurance majors do a full underwriting submission project that's sponsored by Aon through their Grand Rapids office. And so they get to really apply some of what they've learned over the preceding semesters in this very practical sort of capstone project. And then the other thing that's important, kind of the flexible career aspect of that tagline, is that you give students an 18-credit block within the major to form what I call an area of emphasis. It actually makes for a nice, because most of our minors are 18 credits, so they can select a minor that fits their interests and aptitudes and career goals. So we've had students pursue data analytics coursework in that area of emphasis block, or entrepreneurship and take some agency operations courses if maybe they're looking to own their own insurance agency at some point. We've had students do finance minors. And so there's a variety of coursework that they can use to sort of craft this 18-credit block. And it just helps to reinforce that the industry itself is pretty flexible. There's a lot of opportunities to go different paths, underwriting, agency, claims, a variety of directions. And so we try to give them that flexibility. And then the other key piece to this is experiential learning. We take Ferris students on a lot of different field trips, although that's been a little quiet for the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. But generally, we try to get them out there and expose them to some of the industry. We've gone to a few insurance companies and let them see their operations. We've gone to some risk management operations. We had students tour the Gordon Food Service Distribution Center in Grand Rapids, which offers a number of risk management examples. Internships are a big part of our program, and of course, conferences. We've had students go to Boston and Denver and New Orleans, San Diego, for risk management insurance conferences in those various cities. Got an active Gamma Iota Sigma chapter, so we try to immerse them in the industry, give them the practical, technical knowledge they need, marry that with the soft skills, and give them some experiential opportunities with some flexibility. So that's kind of the overall picture of our approach.
Yeah, I think that's great, giving them more of like a hands-on. It's not just about the textbook, but, how do you apply this to real life? And I think that's a wonderful approach.
Yep, practice makes perfect. So we try to give them those opportunities to actually practice what they're learning about.
Fantastic. So how does Ferris view the RMI career opportunities landscape right now?
I think it's actually surprisingly strong given all that's going on right now. I think my impression, and this is just anecdotal, I don't have any hard data, but my impression is that there was a bit of a pause as far as hiring back in the spring and early part of the summer. And I think there's still a little bit of caution on the part of some of the hiring managers out there. But the fact is, I saw, as far as hard data goes, I did see the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, when our overall national unemployment rate hit something around 15%, I think it was 14.7 or something like that in April, the insurance industry unemployment rate was still under 4%. So that tells me that it's a fairly recession-proof industry, and we know that statistics show that it's a graying industry. There's a lot of retirements And in fact, some of those retirements may be accelerating just because of all that's going on right now. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the near future, even if hiring may have paused a bit in recent months.
Very good. How should the RMI industry attract young people to pursue a degree in risk management and education in their career?
You know, that's been a question the industry's been wrestling with for at least the last 10 years, because this talent crisis, because of all the upcoming retirements of baby boomers, has been looming for a while. And in my opinion, what I'd like to see more of is people sharing their stories, people within the industry now, both the older folks like myself, graying part of the industry, but also the more recent millennials who found their way into the industry. Fact is, a lot of people sort of fall into the industry by accident, and the stories are very interesting and compelling to hear how someone sort of discovered the career opportunity in the industry and how it's played out for them. Because overwhelmingly, when I talk to people, they're usually sharing stories about how, I had no idea I'd be in this position, but I'm so glad that things worked out the way they did because I love what I do. I've had a chance to do lots of different things. I've had a chance to live in different places. I mean, you can live in Chicago, Toronto, London, or, Traverse City, Grand Rapids, or the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, because the insurance industry operates everywhere. So there's just, the opportunities are so vast, and if we share our story, I did that actually about a year and a half ago when I think it was in the February career months that the industry sponsors. On my blog, I just told my story, how I sort of accidentally fell into it, how I had mentors and opportunities that sort of just appeared before me as I progressed through my career, and had a chance to build a career that, frankly, I would not trade for anything. I wouldn't change a thing. And I'm doing something that I really enjoy now as sort of a second act in the world of academia, which 20, 30 years ago, if somebody had told me that, I would have said, no, I'm not, that doesn't make sense. So I think if we just tell our story more and more, the media, latches on to all the horror stories about the insurance industry, and there's just so much. I mean, it's 99% positive, and we just need to do a better job of telling those stories and maybe tooting our own horn about the difference that we make as an industry, especially like from a risk management standpoint. It's kind of like sports officials. They're operating at their best when you really don't even notice them. And risk managers who are out there day in and day out trying to keep things under control and avoid the bad stuff from happening as much as possible. And when it does happen, to mitigate the effects as much as possible. A good risk manager, if you don't really know they're there, then that means they're probably doing a really good job. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to toot that horn more and point out the positive and the good that the risk management and insurance industry does for society and for business and for all of us.
Yeah, I've always thought that too. I think sometimes it's kind of a joke with some of the TV ads you see, or, it's portrayed negatively. So there's so much good that comes from insurance. You are also very involved, Ferris is very involved with high schools. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we've got a program specifically in Ingham County with the Wilson Talent Center, where we have students who are taking essentially Ferris courses at Wilson Talent Center in their junior and I think it's primarily junior and senior year students, and it allows them to get a nice head start on a college degree. And prepare themselves for a career in the insurance industry. I think it helps. That particular program uses a lot of materials from Invest, which is a national program that a lot of high schools are working with, and it gives them a chance to get that head start. I love and again, this has kind of changed in recent months because of the pandemic, but I love to get down to the classroom and interact with those young people at least once a semester. And it amazes me every time I do that. It amazes me how dynamic and how interested a lot of those students are in the industry. And it helps, I think, by doing that, it also helps to overcome some of the stigma that young people just sort of develop. If we don't show them the positive side of the industry, they latch onto the negative impressions that are out there, the stereotypes and the stigmas. So those high school programs, I think, are instrumental in attracting young people to the industry.
Yeah, and so much has changed. And I know Ferris is involved with all over the spectrum with dual enrollment, and it's such a great opportunity for high school students to start seeing what interests them and learning about things they wouldn't normally learn about at that age. So,
yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Brown. Can you tell us how people can reach you if they want to talk to you more about the Ferris State Insurance and Risk Management Program?
Sure. Be happy to talk to anyone who wants to learn more. My email address is davidbrown@fairest.edu. Pretty simple, easy name to spell. And if anybody wanted to give me a call, I can share my office number if that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay. My office number is 231-591-2430.
All right. Thank you so much. This is Mary Stucko with Education Unfiltered. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Mary.